This is going to be a short sermon. I hope you won't mind. I don't know if you've noticed on our altar, along with all the beautiful vegetables and the cornucopia, there are some orange seed pods there. And today we're talking about seed pods. Because even on a day like this, when there's snow on the ground, hard as that is to believe, and it appears that winter really is coming, still, the growing season has not really ended. God isn't done with us yet. Even now, God is providing seeds from seed pods for the future. And just as these seeds that are being prepared for next spring will provide more growth once the warm weather returns, so also the church is continuing to grow, even in times when it looks like it's very quiet. And I wanted to give you the whole big backstory to this reading this morning I read from Paul's letter, his second letter to the Corinthians, but I guess we're going to have to save that for another time when my voice is stronger. But what I really wanted to tell you was that as Paul was writing this letter, he was reminding the people at that church of the amazing gift they had been given. Because you see, back then, in that day, many people thought that only the Jews would be God's chosen people, and the rest of us were all shut out. But that wasn't true. Paul had gone to visit the church leaders in Jerusalem and spoken to them, and they had agreed that all people should be welcome into the church, even if you were Gentiles, even if you weren't like the Jews in Jerusalem in some other way. The church's doors were open. This was wonderfully exciting news. Paul was excited about it. He contacted all the churches in Greece, and they were excited about it because now they belonged. They were part of this big thing that God was doing. And they were so excited, they said, we want to be part of the ministry of this church. We're going to do a special fundraiser, they said. See, here's one of those times when the Bible talks about money. We want to do this big, huge fundraiser. We're going to take this big collection to support the good people in Jerusalem at that church, to show how excited we are that we get to be part of God's church with them. And they were so excited. But then, as sometimes happens, there was a falling out. The church in Corinth had a falling out with the Apostle Paul, and they kind of lost their excitement about the whole big project. Fortunately, they had somebody in common, a friend they both trusted, and that friend went between Paul and the church and brought them back together again, which is wonderful. How good it is to have people in our midst who are willing to be peacemakers when we get into tiffs with one another. So this was great, but time had gone on, and Paul knew that there were going to be people coming from the north bringing their big, huge collection to gather up with the people in Corinth and all their ushers and take up their big collection and then carry it off to Jerusalem for this wonderful occasion. And Paul was worried that when they got to Corinth, everybody would say, oops, we forgot about the collection. So he wrote this long letter to them. He said, remember how excited you were that you get to be part of God's mission in the world. Remember how excited you were. And also remember that when you're excited about something, when you're enthusiastic about something like this, the more generous you are, the more you receive. If you give just a little bit, you'll get a little bit. But if you give a lot, you'll get a lot. So he wrote this to them and said, please remember, please give generously. Please continue to be part of the big mission of this church. And through the centuries, we still hear his voice writing to you and me, reminding us. As you think about those estimated giving cards that you filled out last week, maybe you're starting to think, ooh, I don't know. Or maybe you didn't get a chance to fill one out. There are some extra ones on the welcome desk. But remember through it all, how exciting it is that you and I get to be part of God's work in this world through the church. Let us continue to be excited about that and continue to give generously, even when the winter gets cold and it seems like things are quieting down. God is still working in our midst. God is working through you and me. How exciting that is. Amen.